Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Transfer Show. There are big developments this evening to run you through them. Dharmesh Sheth and James Savundra. Now, Liverpool want Mark Guéhi, but will Crystal Palace let their captain go? A new club is in the mix to sign Jadon Sancho. We'll tell you which of his former managers wants him at their club. We won't keep you in the dark over that one. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, close to joining a new club. We'll tell you which Premier League side is closing in on the former Everton striker. Yeah, absolutely loads to get through this evening. We're going to start with Liverpool, though, looking to make changes in their defence. Mark Guéhi to Liverpool for the prices quoted. No-brainer, surely, Dharmesh.
From the outset, it certainly looks that way. Talks are ongoing between Liverpool and Crystal Palace over the signing of the Crystal Palace captain, Mark Guéhi. But it isn't an easy deal or a straightforward deal to do for a number of reasons. Not least the kind of transfer fee that Crystal Palace would want and what Liverpool would be prepared to pay. It's further complicated by the fact that Mark Guéhi has now entered the final year of his contract at Crystal Palace. Add to that, you've got to put yourself in Mark Guéhi's shoes and just look at what his approach might be with regard to a potential move to Liverpool. On the one hand, yes, it might be a no-brainer, joining the defending champions, playing in the Champions League. However, there is a World Cup at the end of the season next summer. If he was to stay at Crystal Palace, there's almost a guarantee he'll be captaining the team and he would be playing for them week in, week out without any shadow of a doubt. I just wonder whether he would need assurances from Liverpool that he was going to get guaranteed game time to ensure that he would be in the mix to get into Thomas Tuchel's squad. Because Thomas Tuchel is still having a look at Mark Guéhi at the moment. He played the full 90 minutes, I think, in one of the games that he's managed since he's taken over as the head coach of England. But in that first squad, he was there, but he didn't play at all. He was an unused substitute. So just one to keep an eye on, because it's not as cut and dried as you would think it might be, given the club that is involved in trying to sign him.
Yeah, and given the fact it seems like it's not been that easy to get these negotiations and make breakthroughs at this moment in time, Crystal Palace fans may feel like this is great news. We might get another season of Mark Guéhi. Well, Steve Parish said that on Sunday, it was really interesting hearing what he had to say. He said there needs to be a new contract or a conclusion, because a player of this calibre to leave for free next summer, that is a real problem for Crystal Palace. It feels unlikely at this stage that Mark Guéhi is going to sign a new contract at Crystal Palace. He loves playing for this club. He's been there for 4 years. He's got 1 year left on a 5-year deal. He's gone from being a fringe contender, somebody who's now England's starting centre-back, and he owes a huge lot to Crystal Palace, and they're really pleased what they've done for him as well. But you can understand why, when some of the biggest clubs in Europe are looking at trying to sign him either this summer or more likely next summer as a free agent, they're not going to stand in his way, Crystal Palace, because if he's not going to sign that new contract, he will leave for a free. And that's why it does feel like there will be a conclusion here with Mark Guéhi departing the football club, because Crystal Palace can't let him go for free. As much as Crystal Palace fans would love him for one more season to see what they could do, this exciting Palace side, what could they do? But from a business point of view, they cannot let this guy go for free. OK, so he may well go to Liverpool. Who else are Liverpool looking at in defence? Giovanni Leoni, who's a very different profile from Mark Guéhi from an age perspective, just 18 years of age. Liverpool in advanced talks right now to sign the centre-back. Deal looks like it could cost between 25 and 30 million pounds. Clubs negotiating the final details of this move right now. Important to note that these two deals are very separate. Leoni and Guéhi, I think ideally Liverpool would like to sign both of those players. The pursuit of Leoni isn't going to affect the pursuit of Mark Guéhi. Ideally, Liverpool want to sign them both. I think it could be a really interesting signing, but of course he's not as experienced as someone like Mark Guéhi. All right, interesting signing. So tell us about him. Very inexperienced. He's only started 14 matches in Serie A. They all came last season. He's signed for Parma from Sampdoria last summer for around €5 million. And you look at the money that Parma are potentially going to make him now, they'll be absolutely delighted. So we've not seen a huge amount of him in the top division in Italy, but one thing we've learnt is he ranks very highly when it comes to players 18 or below that have played in the top 5 European leagues. Ranks very highly when it comes to headed clearance, when it comes to interceptions and aerial duels as well. And I wonder if Liverpool are looking at this young player thinking, if he can get 2 years playing with Virgil van Dijk, he could learn a huge amount. I think if Liverpool are to get this deal done, talks are advancing right now. I don't think we'd see a huge amount of him in the Premier League this season unless there's some injuries. But Liverpool do need defenders right now.
Well, they need defenders, but that's two potentially coming in, Dharmesh. What does that mean for Ibrahima Konate?
Look, at the moment, it looks like Ibrahima Konate and Virgil van Dijk are the first choice centre-back partnership for Liverpool. Leoni, if he was to come in, as James was explaining there, he's a younger profile player, so you would probably expect him to come in, play games here and there, and learn from the likes of Konate and Virgil van Dijk. However, with regard to Konate, rather like the situation we've got with Mark Gahey at Crystal Palace, this is complicated because he's now entered the final year of his contract at Liverpool. They have held talks, have Liverpool and Konate, over a new contract. So far, those talks have failed to find a solution. So the question is now, are Liverpool prepared to allow him to leave for free next summer, or would they consider offers for Ibrahima Konate if both Leoni and Mark Gahey were to come to Anfield? As it stands, our information is that Liverpool have got no intention of selling Ibrahima Konate in this transfer window. The other possibility, this is one that I'm just throwing out there, because of the situations of their new contract, could we see a situation whereby Mark Gahey may decide, do you know what, I'm going to get regular first-team football with Crystal Palace. I'm going to stay at Crystal Palace for the remainder of my contract. However detrimental that could be to Crystal Palace. And then he stays put, leaves for free, maybe to Liverpool next summer. Ibrahima Konate, he stays put at Liverpool and he leaves for free to another club next summer, so that Liverpool don't find themselves in that situation where they pay 35 to 40 million pounds for Mark Gahey, don't tie Konate down to a new contract, don't sell Konate and then end up seeing Konate leave for free next summer. This is just something that could happen. All of these possibilities are on the table. But
last time a Liverpool player went for free, there was all sorts of commotion. In the end, he went for 10 million, but they didn't like it. Would they settle? Will they let Konate do that?
I mean, they might not have a choice, because it's up to Ibrahima Konate if he wants to stay or go from Liverpool. He hasn't made those noises that he's going to leave, and we don't know of any offers that have come in for Ibrahima Konate. But it feels like at the moment that it's Mark Gahey who is quite key to what happens in Liverpool's centre-back department, because that could have issues for Konate. Is he going to start games? If they bring in Gahey, is Arne Slot going to say, well, now Gahey's going to be my first choice? That could then change Konate's mind. So plenty up in the air still.
OK, listen, we'll talk much more about that at 7 o'clock. There's loads to get into there. I want to talk Manchester United. Šeško in. What does that mean for Rasmus Hojlund? We keep saying it.
We do.
Keep asking until something happens.
Yeah, I mean, look, AC Milan, we know, have held talks with Manchester United over the signing of Rasmus Hojlund. As yet, there is no agreement between AC Milan and Manchester United. Key to this is Hojlund and what he wants to do. He, I think, has yet to decide whether he wants to go to Milan. So for now, Milan are now switching their conversations from club to representatives of Rasmus Hojlund. They want to find out 100% for sure whether Rasmus Hojlund is open to this move to AC Milan. If he is, then they can advance on talks with Manchester United, because it would just be a waste of time if they continued trying to get a deal done with Manchester United only to find that Rasmus Hojlund doesn't actually want to go there. At the moment, AC Milan, their discussions with United have centred on a loan with an option to buy. Manchester United would prefer a permanent deal, or at least have a permanent element attached to any kind of loan. We think that Manchester United would consider offers of around £40 million. That can come in two guises. If they sell him permanently and the deal is £40 million, or if it's a loan with an option and there might be a loan fee, say, of around £5 or £6 million, and then the option price is then taken off what they would have paid for the loan fee, so around £35 or £34 million. So again, this is one that is up in the air, but I think it has been made clear to Rasmus Hojlund not only what Manchester United's transfer activity has been so far, because they brought in Benjamin Sesko, but also their team selection, particularly in that game against Fiorentina. They left him on the bench. He was an unused substitute. Mason Mount played as a false number 9. And if that is not a message to say to you, you're probably not in the plans, I don't know what is.
No, indeed. All right. Who else has been linked with exits? We know the players. What's going on with Sancho?
Jadon Sancho, he's a player we talk about every day, it feels like, on the transfer show. So far, no real movement, but we understand the Besiktas are the latest club to explore the conditions of a deal and show interest in Sancho. The club's president was speaking and said that they're going to do their best to sign him if Sancho wants to join the football club. And once he emerged as a potential target, Besiktas fans have taken to social media to try to convince Jadon Sancho to join Besiktas. They've left more than 5 million comments under his most recent Instagram post. And if this does happen, I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done for Jadon Sancho to become a Besiktas player, but he would be reunited with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer brought him to Manchester United in 2021 for £73 million. So how fitting it would be if the chapter at Manchester United came to a close with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer helping Manchester United get rid of a player they've been looking to offload for a long period of time. Borussia Dortmund, they remain interested. As yet, no agreement with the club or the player. Clubs in Italy and Saudi Arabia are exploring the conditions of a deal. We know the other players United are trying to offload this summer because it could lead to potentially more incomings.
5 million comments. It's like after a transfer show, but not one of them any good. Right, Belieber. Can the United fans believe they'll get Belieber?
It's difficult. There's been no formal offer or formal approach from Manchester United to Brighton over the signing of Carlos Belieber. As we've been saying, even before Manchester United signed Benjamin Sesko, the focus has been on sales, or at least an assurance that there will be sales at Manchester United in the final 19 days of this transfer window. But it is understood that if a market opportunity was to present itself in Belieber, Manchester United want to be in a position where they can act on it. I'm not going to say that they want to be in a position where they can do the deal, just be in the mix to be able to act on it. But that is still feeling like a long way away at the moment, because it is an extremely difficult deal to do this one.
Why? Tell us why.
Simply because, number one, Brighton are going to ask for a huge amount of money. If you look at Carlos Belieber and his progress at the club, you could argue, from a Brighton perspective, it's probably gone quicker than it did with Moises Caicedo when he was there. They ended up selling Caicedo for £115 million. Brighton will probably say, well, if Caicedo went for that much money, why can't we charge over £100 million for Carlos Belieber? Especially because it's coming within the last 3 weeks of the transfer window. The new season is about to start. What would they do with regard to replacements? On top of that, he's still got 3 years left on his contract. Brighton have got the option of a further year. They don't want to sell. There's no intention to sell. They are under no pressure to sell either. But rather like the Sesko deal, Manchester United only went in and made their feelings clear that they wanted to make a bid once Sesko had given that some sort of encouragement that he wanted to join. I think that's what would have to happen for Manchester United to really make that first move. If they believed Carlos Belieber really wanted to come to Old Trafford, could they find a way? Will they find a way? Two very different things, because it's very, very difficult to raise that kind of money. As I mentioned, the contract situation is working very much in Brighton's favour. They don't need to sell.
You're right. It is a difficult deal. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk Gianluigi Donnarumma. Going from Paris Saint-Germain, but is he on his way to Manchester City? Might be. Talk about him next. See you in a moment. Hi, welcome back to the Transfer Show. We are going to talk the goalkeeping situation at Manchester City. I mean, they don't need four, do they, Darmish? What's the latest on Gianluigi Donnarumma? Is he really being considered by Manchester City?
I think we need to explain the situation first before we go into City. And it has put a number of clubs in Europe on alert that one of the best goalkeepers, widely recognised as one of the best goalkeepers in the world, is now available. Incredibly, is available. This is an interesting situation for a number of reasons. Number one, tonight's game, PSG against Tottenham Hotspur in the Super Cup final. Gianluigi Donnarumma has been omitted from that squad altogether. It was a decision made by the PSG head coach, Luis Enrique. The agent of Gianluigi Donnarumma has done an exclusive interview with Sky Italia saying how disappointed he is at how PSG have handled this. He has released a statement on Instagram himself as Donnarumma saying this is down to one person, doesn't name Luis Enrique, but clearly it is Luis Enrique. So not many people are pleased on that side of it. The other side of it, he has entered the final year of his contract. Now, this is a double-edged sword, one for the club and one for the player. He could threaten the club and say, well, I don't need to go anywhere. I will not be forced to go anywhere. I will see out my contract and you'll continue paying me £300,000 a week. So that's £15 million. If you don't want me to play, I'll be sitting on the bench.
Not in World Cup year, he won't.
That's the exact reason why PSG know they might hold the upper hand here, in that they know he needs to play. He will need to accept some sort of offer. Manchester United and Manchester City have both kept an eye on Donnarumma's situation. However, as far as we're aware, there's been no direct contact between Manchester United and PSG, nor Manchester City and PSG, nor with the representatives of the player. That is likely to change very, very soon because of the situation he finds himself in now. Add to that, Manchester United seem to have a full goalkeeping department at the minute. Andre Onana, Altay Bayindir, Tom Heaton, and look at the two people on this screen as well. Manchester City have got Ederson, and they've just re-signed James Trafford.
Don't forget Ortega's still there as
Burnley,
well.
and Ortega as well.
It's worth looking at the Manchester City situation when it comes to goalkeepers, because it's our understanding that Manchester City want to keep Ederson, and Ederson is their number one, which in itself is quite interesting because they've had one pre-season friendly. Ederson played 45 minutes. James Trafford, who's just returned to the club from Burnley, he played 45 minutes. So that in itself, I think, is very interesting. There's been no formal approaches for Ederson this summer, though we know there has been long-standing interest from the Saudi Pro League and from the Turkish leagues as well. But if an offer does come in, then City will have a decision to make because of his contract situation. If Ederson was allowed to leave, they would be looking for a replacement, and Donnarumma is likely to be a name on that shortlist. However, it was really interesting. We heard from Julien Laurent earlier on today on Sky Sports News, and he's not so sure that Donnarumma would be a good fit for Manchester City.
He's not really a Pep Guardiola type of goalkeeper or type of player. Like I've said before, his distribution is not good, and that's also why PSG were happy to go for somebody much better on the ball than Donnarumma. If you are a goalkeeper for Pep Guardiola, ask Joe Hart, you need to be very good on the ball, which is not the case of Donnarumma. And then there's crosses. If you want to do well in the Premier League, you need to be good in the air, good on crosses, good on corners, which again, it's not him. He doesn't come out on corners or crosses. So this is the truth. They are in contact with the club, with PSG, and with the entourage of Donnarumma. But for me, I'm just amazed because it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, we're going to get much more into that at 7 o'clock. Right, I want to whiz through a few things now, gentlemen. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, what's the latest on him?
There's agreement in principle to join Leeds United. We know he left Everton following the expiry of his contract in June. We've spoken to Daniel Farke today. We'll bring you that interview on Sky Sports News. He said his squad are not ready for the Premier League and need more attacking players. Well, this could help Dominic Calvert-Lewin, a fit Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That could help. You look at his record at Everton, 71 goals in 273 matches. We've not seen the best of him over the course of the last few years, but we know what he can do. In his best season for Everton, 16 Premier League goals in a season, but he struggled with injuries and form last season. Started half of the matches he played in. 26 matches he played in, half of them he started. The last start in the Premier League came back in January. It could be a no-risk situation if you look at the contract, if it is on more of a pay-as-you-play deal for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But it's good to see him get an opportunity back in the Premier League to prove himself once again.
Right, Darmish, let's talk Fulham. Not spent a bean, but that could change. Tell us.
Yeah, we're talking about one in, one out, potentially, in the striking department. They're willing to pay, we're told, a club record for this man. Kevin, his name is, from Shakhtar Donetsk. We told you on Monday that the clubs had held talks over the signing of Kevin, and they are prepared to go beyond the £34 million record that they paid Arsenal for Emile Smith-Rowe last summer. However, even that might not be enough to tempt Shakhtar Donetsk to sell Kevin. They value him at more than 3 times the £15 million they paid Palmeiras around 18 months ago. So there's still a significant gap in valuation. Meanwhile, the other player on the screen, Rodrigo Muniz, Atalanta are still pushing to sign him. They've had an offer worth £34.5 million on the table to Fulham. We understand he is keen on the move to go from Fulham to Atalanta. Fulham want him to stay and would find it very difficult to let him go without an adequate replacement. Could that replacement in that forward area be Kevin? Muniz, though, has only got a year left on his contract. Significantly, Fulham do have the option to extend that for a further 12 months.
Love the name Kevin for a Brazilian. James, let's talk Bournemouth. What's going on there?
They've signed a player, and it's a really significant fee they've paid as well for Bafodi Diakite from Lille. It's a deal that could rise to around £34.3 million. The fee is £30 million up front. Evan Nielsen was their record signing, but this comes pretty close. £35 million in total. They've lost a lot of defenders this summer, but one thing about Bournemouth, they always seem to have a next player in line. They lost Dominic Solanke last summer. Evan Nielsen was ready to go. Diakite has come in to replace Zabani, who's just left for PSG.
Right, we're running out of time, but I want to get to this. Jacob Ramsey, we'll get into this at 7, but what is the latest with him?
Newcastle in talks to try to sign him. Now, Villa don't want to sell him, really, but they do have to comply with UEFA rules because they were fined by UEFA earlier on this summer. They need to come out of this transfer window in profit. So they may need to sell a player, and he would represent pure profit because he comes from the academy. He's got 2 years left in his contract. They don't want to let him go, but there would need to be a sale, you'd feel, this summer. They signed Evan Gassand earlier on this summer. Newcastle have been considering a bid for a long period of time. He's a long-term target. Talks are there right now. We wait to see how quickly they develop.
Dharmesh, it would seem with all the football Newcastle are going to play, that might be a cracking signing.
It looks like that way. I mean, it's been a frustrating window so far, hasn't it? But you've got to remember, Anthony Elanga has come in, good player. Aaron Ramsdale in goal. Malik Chow as well. Jacob Ramsey potentially. We're still talking about Johan Wissa, and they may need to bring in a replacement for Alexander Isak, depending on what happens there. We've gone that time without mentioning his name.
Yes, so they could pull it round. All right, that's the transfer show at 5. We are back for a full hour at 7. So much to get into. Next, though, Marcus Rashford's had a right old pop at Manchester United. Hear what he had to say next. See you in a moment.